Welcome everybody to the WyoSports video blog for this week as we preview the University of Wyoming Cowboys football team. I'm Scott Nulph, sports editor at WyoSports, joined by Robert Gagliardi, senior sports editor at WyoSports, as we look at this week's Wyoming-Utah State football game. But first, we got to go back a little bit to Fresno State last week. Just a great win for a team in very tough circumstances.
Yeah, they had never won in Fresno, 12 to 14 point underdog, depending where you looked at. Injuries all over the place, and they went in and hammered Fresno State 45-17, season highs in points and yards, and Brian Hill with 387 all-purpose yards. Defense with its first two interceptions. Anywhere you look at it, that was domination. And if you would have thought 45-17 was going to be the final score, you probably would have thought it would have been on Fresno's side.
Yeah.
Cowboys went in there and took care of business, snapped a 4-game losing streak, and kind of rejuvenated these guys a little bit. So let's see, be interesting to see if they can carry that over to Utah State on Friday night.
Yeah, as we said last week, we're glad that we were wrong on our picks last week for this one.
It probably won't be the last time.
Yeah, exactly. Now, how can they keep that momentum going into this week's, facing a very good Utah State team at home here?
Well, I think they're just going to have to continue, as Crick Bowl said, and even Brent Vigen, the offensive coordinator, that even though the results weren't always shown on the scoreboard, they've practiced better over the last few weeks of the season, and I think that really has to continue this week, especially on a short week where you got 1 day less to prepare. I think they need to continue to practice well and really be, they say they want to be physical and hard-nosed, and we've seen glimpses of that. But this is probably going to be, at least to this point, the most physical team they faced in conference play in Utah State. A defense that leads the Mountain West in 9 different defensive categories, tops in a lot of things like interceptions and sacks and turnovers, force things that really rushing yards. Those are things that win football games, and I think Wyoming, will have to try to match the same type of intensity and physicalness if possible with Utah State to have a chance.
I think so. We'll talk about their offense a little bit. They're on their 4th quarterback, but their defense is as good probably as there is in the West right now. They held CSU to 16 points, a team that scored a bunch on Wyoming. Just talk about their defense. What is Wyoming going to be able to do? What are they going to have to do against Utah State's defense?
Well, one thing that I think is going to be interesting to see if Wyoming does is they're very physical in the play hard as far as the Aggies go. But I think some of the coaches here feel that they're not sure if anyone's really gone toe-to-toe with them and trying to be physical. Now, I don't know if Wyoming's at that level yet, but that's what Wyoming strives to be. So it'll be interesting to see if Wyoming goes at Utah State, tries to run up the middle, tries to run through the tackles, and tries to match that physicality. I don't know if that will work, but I think that's something to see, especially early in the game, and see if Wyoming can establish that. They've got to protect Colby Kierkegaard, because one thing Utah State, at least from the statistics, indicate is teams can throw it on them. They'll play man-to-man. They'll be complex in what they do, but they'll put their corners out on islands and rely on that. If Wyoming's been able to hit some big plays, both in the run and the pass game in this last game and a half,
right?
I think they're going to need to, if they can pop a few big plays, however they can do it, I think that'll be huge. But if they can't protect Kierkegaard, especially on those edges, with those tackles, I think it could be a long night for them.
I think so, too. Offensively for Utah State, how impressive is it? They're on their 4th quarterback. They're on a guy that probably didn't even expect to maybe even redshirt this year, let alone play, but they're still winning. They win last week, the 4th. That says something about their program.
It says a lot about their program. I don't know if there's any program in the country that could go be at their 4th quarterback and still be 6-3 and overall and 3-1 in this league, and 3 points away from being undefeated in the league. And goes to show the program they've established. But as Crick Bowl said earlier this week, Scott, it says a lot about their offensive line.
Right.
To be able to go through all the changes that they've gone through and still be able to find ways to win games. It's not just one guy. The quarterback obviously is important, but that offensive line, receivers, but really the offensive line that says a lot about their physicality and their program, is how their offensive line has been able to play through all these changes.
Absolutely. So I don't expect a high-scoring game here in this. Now, last time we said that, we did get kind of a high-scoring game. Can't remember which one we were talking about, but I really don't expect a shootout here. I think this is going to be a game right in the 20s, maybe mid-20s. I don't expect teams to score much more than that.
I wouldn't think so, but again, you never know what could happen when you get into some big plays, and you still, as well as Wyoming played defensively, and I don't want to take anything away from it, you're still dealing with a lot of injuries and a lot of guys in different spots and different roles. So, take the momentum from last week at Fresno, but don't bank on it. You still have to be sound. But I would agree with you. I don't see this much getting past the 20s, mid-20s, maybe high 20s for either team. Maybe it could be even lower. It could be like Utah State's game with CSU where it went 16-13.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's pick the game. Now, this is a big one for Wyoming again. We're back in the bowl talk conversation after the win Saturday. They need 2 out of their last 3 They've got this one, Boise State at home, and then at New Mexico. Obviously, this feels like a really big game. What are your thoughts on the outcome on Saturday?
Well, I think, like you said, Scott, I think it's going to be a close game. I'm anxious to see how Wyoming can match up physically with Utah State and see if that run game can get going and Kobe Kierkegaard can continue his good play over these last 3 games, or two games, really. But, you know, Utah State's been through these battles before, and this is a big one for Wyoming. I certainly think they've got a chance, but I think in the end, Utah State's going to find a way to win a close one, 24-20.
Okay, I'm going to ride the wave. I'm going to ride after last week's game at Fresno State. I think it's going to be close. I'm going to say Wyoming's down by 3 going into the 4th quarter. In some way, somehow, maybe it's Brian Hill breaking off another big run or Colby Kierkegaard hitting a big pass. I'm going to say Wyoming hits one late and wins 27-23.
I like to see the defensive. Still, it's a freshman quarterback in Kent Myers. They can confuse him or keep him off balance. That's going to be another big key for the Cowboys in this one. So, again, hope I'm wrong. People out there know I've been wrong many times. So that'll do it for this week's WyoSports video blog. For more Wyoming sports coverage, see the Wyoming Tribune Eagle and the Laramie Boomerang, and check back to WyoSports.net. Enjoy the game, everybody. Friday Night Lights here in Laramie.